Hey folks, BlackCross here, and I just want to go ahead and talk about excuse me, the Tokyo Game Show that happened this year. Now, for those that are unfamiliar, Tokyo Game Show is basically a video game form convention that happened over in Japan, and that's the reason why it's called the Tokyo Game Show. And usually they introduce stuff that was either non-mentioned at E3 that are coming up, or stuff that is only going to be released in Japan. And sometimes it's more along the lines of stuff that's only going to be released in Japan. Sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes it does happen. But thankfully, if for some reason it gets fairly popularized, sometimes they'll actually go as far as to push it out into America, which is always a good thing. This year, on the other hand, though, there wasn't really anything majorly new, I guess you could say, that was introduced. Like, anything new. I say that the majority of the time that I got interested in was mostly updated stuff. So, I want to go ahead and talk about all the updates that we have gotten within the Tokyo Game Show. And keep in mind, this is stuff that interests me. Now, there was a certain game that you were interested in at the Tokyo Game Show. That's perfectly fine, but to me, there wasn't really anything that piqued my interest that says, I want to get this game. Or, hey, this looks really cool, I can't wait for it to come out. Or, hey, I might get this later on. Not necessarily. There wasn't really anything that had that interest at the moment in time. And keep in mind, my book is already filled as it is for 2018. So, it's going to be tough, especially since I'll be moving out soon. So, we'll see how that goes. But the point is that the first bit of news that I got out of the Tokyo Game Show was the fact that Dissidia Final Fantasy NT introduced a new character to the rosters. Now, before, and the funny thing is, before they officially announced it, that it was going to come to the PS4 and everything like that, it was for the arcade over in Japan. And for the longest time, people were like, are they even going to release it on a console? Because as far as we know, it was only arcade only, which was taking some people off. But it had characters from advancing Final Fantasy games, such as 14. You have one that came from Type 0, which is Ace. And then you have another character, which I'm not familiar with her name, or him, could be a him, I'm not judging, but from Tactics Advance. Or was it Tactics Lions for the PSP? I don't know, I've lost track. But I know that one's from Tactics, technically. So, to reiterate what I'm trying to get to is that in this particular update that we got for Final Fantasy, I keep getting that back. Where is it? Dissidia Final Fantasy NT. Can't we just call it Final Fantasy Dissidia NT? That way I don't get them switched around. I'm used to that, okay? But a new character got revealed. And Record, eventually he would have been revealed as a playable character in the campaign. But he was never shown. There was no screenshot, there was no image of it up until the Tokyo Game Show. Noctis is now officially a member of Dissidia Final Fantasy NT. He is officially a playable character in the game. So, that was good to know, because the combat system for Noctis would work really well, in my opinion, for him. The reason why, you have Noctis, who has the ability to use different weapons of form, and then you also have his Omnigear as well, his ability of choice and everything. Sort of the same way with Furin from Final Fantasy II. He has the ability to use different weapons and arts. So to see Noctis on there is a very welcome change. And I think for him, the combat system is going to work well for his favor, I think. It's not going to be the best. They're going to balance him out to where he works well as a balanced character for everybody else to play. But then again, considering the fact that they have different classes now, like assassins, warrior, and stuff like that, it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to place Noctis. I don't see him being the assassin's class character, but I see him being more of a warrior class type character. But again, we'll find out more when the game officially comes out, which is January 30th of 2018. So, I'm very excited about it. I still need to put my pre-order for Final Fantasy Dissidia. I keep forgetting to do that, but I'll eventually remember it. Hopefully I will. Because keep in mind, that's just one of many titles that I'm wanting to get within next year. Speaking of which, there was no update video for Kingdom Hearts 3, which I kind of figured there wouldn't be, but considering the fact they're wanting to eventually reveal all of the worlds of Kingdom Hearts 3, I figured they would have had another update video regarding like, hey, here's another world we're going to introduce in Kingdom Hearts 3. Nothing major, sort of like Sanford's Tokyo, they would do like an art picture of some kind, or maybe even a screenshot of what world it could be. But they didn't do that. Final Fantasy VII Remake is still on the realms of like not been announced. They are saying though that this game is being worked on a little bit more each time. Each time that a week goes by, it gets worked on a little bit more, which tells me that Kingdom Hearts 3 is somewhat sort of finally getting finished up. Keep in mind the release date is still 2018, but we don't know when in 2018. We don't know if it's going to be late 2018 or if it's going to be mid 2018. At this point, it's going to be just grabbing straws and a pipe dream thinking that it's going to come out early 2018, like March of 2018. That's a pipe dream. Not to say that I wouldn't doubt it, and I would be very surprised that is, but at the same time, I'm not going to hold out for it. I'm looking towards like maybe summer, even fall of 2018 is a possible candidate. Worst case scenario, winter of 2018. But again, we don't know when. But Final Fantasy VII Remake is slowly starting to get a little bit more investment in and all that stuff. But that's only because, considering the fact that this game is bigger than Kingdom Hearts 3. Now, I don't mean bigger as in, like, popularity. I mean bigger in scales. You know, we're talking about Final Fantasy VII being that of a bigger RPG. And Kingdom Hearts, keep in mind, Kingdom Hearts RPG, I want to say in terms of, like, the grand scale of things, you might put in, like, at least a good 150, depending on the difficulty. With Final Fantasy VII's original game, you can easily put like 300 hours plus on it. Easily. Probably more than likely. And so, for Final Fantasy VII Remake, they're doing more work into it. But in terms of like, because see, they're still wanting to do it episodically. But there has been no major update. But they did say they are working a little bit more each time as a news has been brought up for Final Fantasy VII. And keep in mind, we've been very scarce for news for Final Fantasy VII. Very scarce. But we are getting like little bits here and there of like what's going on in the process. And I think that's good. I think that's good considering the fact that it is still going to be episodic. Like they said they're going to. Now in terms of like if it's going to be physical or digital, we don't know yet. As far as we know, it's going to be episodic. They're going to release the first part, the second part, and then a third part. You know, sort of like a multi-disc type thing. The point is that it's going to be some time still. So, to see 7 as a release date for 2018, at this point, who knows, really? Who knows? It's hard to say. But for the time being right now, it's too early to say if it could get released in 2018. Some people are hoping, but at this point right now, let's not jump into ideals of when. But another update that was revealed to us was that of Code Vein. Code Vein is basically a game where basically gameplay is Dark Souls, but it's more anime. And while we've had like gameplay trailers, we've had like interesting concept and stuff like that, we didn't really get like a full-fledged story trailer. In Tokyo Game Show, however, they actually revealed a story trailer for Code Vein, which honestly is looking pretty interesting, actually. It really is. Not to go in too deep with it, apparently the people who are assisting, basically they consume blood in order to survive. Thus the term prepared to dying when its earlier stage came out. It was prepared to dying. And that's why they kind of have this vampire-y look, is because they have to consume blood in order to survive. And that's about as far as we've gotten. Again, not to go into any deeper detail, but at the end of the day, it does seem like an interesting story concept, and I'm actually interested to see how it's going to look. Discussing with it with my friends, though, on the other hand, we're hoping that this is more Devil May Cry-ish than Dark Souls. In my personal opinion, in this game's case, I think we needed to be more action-y instead of it being Dark Souls. Dark Souls, you have to take your time, you have to analyze an opponent's move in order to predict when to attack. So it's a little, it's a little bit slow paced, but in comparison to like Bloodborne was a little bit faster paced. So if Code Vein was that, or a little bit faster, I think it might actually be able to pull it off in a very successful way. If it tries to stay in that realm of like a Dark Souls clone, it's probably not going to make it far. Probably not. But that's just me thinking of that way. Now, in terms of other updates, there wasn't really any major updates in terms of games that I know of. However, though, their toy exhibit, Square Enix Toys and Merchandise, did get show off. Now, Square Enix has their own store where they have merchandises and stuff like that. And every Tokyo Game Show, they tend to reveal certain upcoming items that will be available later on within the up-and-coming year, if not the following next year. And while they didn't really have much of anything major, like for example, they had the Sora second form outfit, they had a few others here and there, but a couple things that did have my interest was that they had a Bahamut PlayArts Kai figure. This particular Bahamut, however, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that one is either 7 or... No, it's definitely not 9, because 9 you can't really tell if it has eyes or not. But I think it's either 7 or 8's Bahamut. I believe it's probably 8 if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to take a look at it. They didn't really specify which Bahamut it is. They just said it was Bahamut. But the figure itself definitely has my interest. That it definitely looks really good, and I personally am kind of scared to see its future pricing, considering the fact these are still PlayArts. Now, they recently revealed a new concept, being that of Bring Arts, which is basically a series of figures that are smaller in scales, but it's the exact same thing as the PlayArts, except just slightly smaller. With the PlayArts, they're actually from that big, actually. So, which you've seen a couple of my figures that I've had, the Final Fantasy 15 crew, and then my Sora figure. The PlayArts is actually a little bit bigger. The Bring Arts, however, are a little bit smaller in scale, and they're actually a little bit cheaper. So this is the PlayArts, so you can imagine this can go easily over $100. This Bahamut figure, I imagine. Because the last Bahamut they had, while it was pretty cool looking, it wasn't dragon-y, I suppose you could say. It didn't seem like a dragon. Whereas this one is a dragon, so needless to say, I'm interested in this one. But another thing that they showed off that had my interest, which not so much on smaller stuff, but on one bigger notion. They showed off that they were releasing Cloud and Sephiroth and Barret eventually. They've also got a remodel of Vincent Valentine. But for the first time ever, I mean literally, for the first time ever, we're getting a PlayArts Kai figure of Sid. Now, what do I mean whenever I say for the first time ever? In the past, Square Enix has released PlayArts figures of previous characters. You know, they've done Cloud, they've done Yuffie, they've done Vincent before with Advent Children. They've done Tifa, they've done Eris to some degree. But they never, at the time, they never released Barrett, and they never released Sid. Now, they've released Barrett. They've released Barrett some time ago, actually. I think it was like 2 years ago? Maybe it was last year, early last year, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that they revealed it some time ago. So we were familiar with Barrett being released. However, this time we have Sid that's going to be introduced. We have Sid now. So, potentially, we have all the main Final Fantasy characters available as figures now. Which, as a collector, gets me happy, because that means that I can actually go that extra mile and get a whole set. May not get Sephiroth, because I technically have my own Sephiroth, but updating Sephiroth's Play Arts figure probably wouldn't be a bad thing, considering the fact that the updated version of Sephiroth that they have has the one-wing angel look. The one wing, the black wing, they have that on the figure. So, I might want to update that? I don't know. If I do, it's only because I'm wanting to get the original look. Not so much with Advent Children, but the original Final Fantasy VII cast look. You know, you have Yuffie, but Yuffie has been seen in like 3 different outfits. You've seen her in her regular outfit, you've seen her in the Advent Children outfit, and then Dreza Cerberus, she has a completely different outfit entirely. Then you got Aerith, who has her normal pink outfit, but then you have her Crisis Core outfit. So, in a sense, technically they have all been available as figures. So, I say as Final Fantasy VII Remake gets closer to being released, they're potentially wanting all of the characters to be remodeled and remade in order to coincide with the remake version of the game. Essentially, that's what I'm thinking anyway. But that had my interest, in all honesty, and I was kind of like, I'm definitely going to have to play game with my money in order to see how much I can save in order to get these figures, because they're $140 each. Damn it! I'm broke as shit already. At least release them in the Bring Arts series to where they're cheaper, because technically the Bring Arts figures for both Sora and his Guardian form, basically they're around the $70 range, which is significantly reduced to half the price than what the Play Arts figure are. So I'm hoping that Square Enix, if this gets popularized, that Final Fantasy VII character remakes will be made into the Bring Arts series, because then that would be very nice, you know. They're still a fairly decent size. And you get your money's worth, you know. You're not having to break the bank, but they're fairly good size. So hopefully they'll do something along that lines. But at this point right now, it's kind of hard to say, and it's kind of early to say if they'll do it. But at any rate, though, that was all that was going on at Tokyo Game Show. Again, this year, not so much. And at first, I thought to myself, I was like, do I really want to do a video on it? And then leaks got revealed about the Square Enix toy and merchandise exhibit, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do a video. This was enough to make me talk about it and add on to it, you know. Like I said, the rest of it was all updates, but this was enough to kind of coincide with it because it was part of Tokyo Game Show. So, why not, right? It just makes sense. But anyway, though, that was all I wanted to talk about for the Tokyo Game Show. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts on was Tokyo Game Show, and was there anything interesting that you wanted to get, probably. Maybe there was, maybe there wasn't, who knows. But until then, I'll see you in the next video. This is BlackCross signing off.